Welcome to Crossroad Connection. We're speaking out for those left unheard. My name is David Schuringa, the host of your program, and I'm the president of Crossroad Bible Institute. Those of you familiar with Crossroad know that we are a ministry to people in prison. When someone has been put in prison, they have committed a crime and were convicted of a crime. And a crime, when it is committed, is not only something that impacts the person or persons that were directly affected, but it affects an entire community, and it harms a community. And so what we tried to do here at Crossroad Bible Institute, among many things, as we prepare prisoners for reentry, is to teach them how to give back to a community, how to give back rather than take that which is not theirs. And so I have a special edition of letters from prison and testimonies from prison today that Alexa Winnick has compiled. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
My co-host as we together look at these different ways in which students are giving back, correct?
Yeah, either to their communities, families, or even, fellow people in prison that they're with. So.
I don't think a lot of people think about that, that a crime, it damages the community, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When a crime is committed, everyone is affected. All of a sudden, right?
Yeah, well, it's like a ripple effect, when broken lives are involved, families, that means families, friends, neighbors, everyone is affected in some way.
Right. My daughter was, one of my daughters was visiting here yesterday, and I was giving her a little tour and introduced some of the staff, but also to the volunteers downstairs. Mm-hmm. And one of the volunteers had remembered several years ago where she and my mom were mugged in a neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
Near my folks' condominium in Florida.
Okay.
And after that happened, they didn't get hurt or anything like that, but I don't want to get into the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
But it affected that whole area.
Mm-hmm.
People, they had their drapes closed earlier, They were kind of afraid. My mom was afraid now to walk to the Walmart across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And it affects the whole community, but it was just a crime of this young man holding them up. But it impacts the whole area how they live in the area.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm anxious to see what you have here, how people who are incarcerated for harming the community, how they're learning to give back.
Sure. We can start with Herbert. He's in California, and short and sweet one. But he says, through my CBI studies, I've learned to stop stealing from my community because I'm only hurting my Lord and them. I need to give something back to them by telling others about the consequences that I have suffered from my bad choices and about Jesus' love.
So stealing from the community, do you see that as sort of literal stealing?
Yeah, I'm not sure about Herbert's specific situation, but, whether that's actually, stealing from a bank or something, or just emotionally in some way.
Mm-hmm. The whole idea of taking.
Right, opposed to giving back. And so, it sounds like he's finding some inspiration to give back. Yeah. So one author I like, he describes as being a generative person, someone who gives life opposed to takes it. So.
And of course, the irony of that is that you benefit from that even more.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. In surprising ways sometimes.
Right.
So, yeah.
Let's take the next letter.
All right. This is George from New York, and
George from New
York, and he is talking about a situation with another prisoner that he came across. So he says, "Thank you for the progress letter to the parole board and for the certificate of achievement. I am certainly having a blast doing these courses. They have definitely kept me busy, focused, and thanking God for the privilege of studying His Word. Most recently, someone asked me, 'Why do you even bother studying God's Word? After all, you're incarcerated.' My reply was, 'I will not allow this incarceration to dictate how I should live, because God's Word is truth. Why waste my life doing nothing when I can spend time studying God's Word, which will essentially make a difference in my life now and in the future?' A couple of days later, I took the liberty of providing that individual with a CBI application. The next move belongs to him. Well, it's certainly been a pleasure to be able to pen these words."
Well, there's a lot going on in that letter.
Yeah.
And it tells us an awful lot about our CBI program, doesn't it? First of all, it just warms my heart that I'm having a blast.
Right. Yeah. He's
Doing
definitely
these-
enjoying it, it
doing
sounds
these,
like. Yeah.
Doing these lessons, that's a sign of a person who has the Spirit of the Lord in them when he has a blast studying the Bible.
Yep.
So people who don't, aren't of faith can't quite get that. I don't think, that it's a blast to study
Sure,
God's Word. Also, I just wanted to note that he is thanking us for the certificate that he gets. We award every student with a certificate when they complete an entire course, and they're very proud of those certificates as something that they've accomplished. Many times they hang them on the walls of their cell, or they send it home to their mothers. But then also he mentioned the parole letter.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was a key piece in this
Right.
testimony. Yeah.
So they know that come to learn that, and we know that the parole boards like to see them involved in CBI's program.
Sure.
It
yeah.
shows that they're making good use of their time. And
It's a tangible way in some ways to see how people are they learning? Are they being rehabilitated if they've, struggled with an addiction or something like that? So it's kind of a concrete way to measure in some ways how someone has been doing.
yes, and they're interacting with an instructor, and so they're growing and learning. And so he's giving back in a sense of by improving himself
Right. For when he's released.
for when he's released, so that he can be a better person out there. But also right there in prison, he's passing out CBI enrollment forms.
Yeah.
And so he's giving back, and he says, I can't force this guy to do it. The next step is his. But we have 45,000 students right now. We've served over 500,000, but over a third of our students come from guys like George,
Sure. Yeah.
who recommend the program to another person.
Yeah.
And so I think that speaks volumes for the program and how much they enjoy it when over a third of our students are coming because someone says, hey, you got to do this. That's a pretty exciting way to recruit students.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like he's really enjoying it. So, yeah,
Sure.
that's great.
How about another one?
Okay. This is actually a really interesting story. And actually, in November, we posted a story about it on our website. This is a letter from Lorenzo in California.
That sounds familiar. What's it
Yeah.
about?
Lorenzo is known in the prison that he's in as the Bear Man. And that's
The
his
Bear Man.
new nickname, as he's been telling us. So I have an excerpt of his letter, but just to give some context for the story, he started this program for the people, his fellow inmates, to sew teddy bears. So they've been hand sewing these teddy bears and really enjoying it. And he had this inspiration of, I want to find a way to get these teddy bears to kids who might, need some comfort or, could use just a little bit of joy in their lives or something. So he created this Create a Bear with Care program. And
What's it called?
Create a Bear with Care.
Create a Bear with Care.
And
pretty clever.
Yeah, and he's been teaming up with some other agencies. I think Salvation Army might be one of them, to get these teddy bears into the hands of kids at women's shelters and in underprivileged areas and things like that. So he wrote us a little testimony just about what he's been doing. He actually caveated the whole letter with, "I'm sorry I've been a bit behind in my lessons, but I've been so busy with this bear program," which we thought was great because he was concerned that we knew why he was behind in his lessons.
I'm making teddy bears.
Yeah. So anyway, this is kind of his conclusion in the letter talking about that program. He says, teaching some of these men in here that they can do good, that they are not bad people, but that we only make bad decisions is amazing. If I could share with you the look of joy and pride on the men's faces of the men who helped make the bears when they saw the photos of the children receiving their bears, it would bring tears to your eyes, because it was clear that God has done a wonderful thing in their lives too, not just the kids. Crossroad has been a great blessing. I only hope that I can give back to others what has been given to me when it comes to the knowledge of God's word.
Okay, we're talking bears. No, that's great. In fact, we got to take a little break here. We'll be right back, talk more bears.
Stay connected to what's happening at Crossroad Bible Institute with Crossroad Network News. This free magazine is designed to keep you informed and inspired about what Christ Church is doing in prisons and jails. If you'd like a free subscription to Crossroad Network News, fill out the form online by visiting us at cbi.fm.
Welcome back to Crossroad Connection. We're having a good time here, finding that there are many ways in which people in prison are learning to give back to their communities. And so we're talking about, before the break, this very special one, I don't think we're quite finished yet, about the bears.
Yeah, Lorenzo. With
Lorenzo.
The Create a Bear with Care program.
Create a Bear with Care program. So he and these, I just kind of imagine these tattooed criminals, big guys.
Some of them, yeah.
Sewing bears.
Sure, yeah. And I've seen pictures of them. They're like pretty small, but like, really cute. And
so we'll have a picture we could show the folks of the
yeah,
bear?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I
okay.
think, there was an article, I think, published by one of the, in California, one of their prison websites had an article about the program. So.
And we had an article on cbi.tv.
Yeah, back in November. If
on
someone
the
wants
web.
to go, check out our archives,
Into
it'll
the
be
archives,
there.
and they can find it.
Yeah.
So Lorenzo is giving back by trying to make a kid happy. And yeah, that's just kind of warms your heart, doesn't it?
Yeah, and like you said, it's great to think about, using creative gifts. We see our students who submit artwork and poetry for the Crossroad Journal of the Arts, how, just something hands-on and creative can be such a great vehicle to, for healing and for giving back to others in that creative process.
Did you have a teddy bear as a kid?
I actually, it's probably embarrassing, but I kind of collected teddy bears for a while as a small
Really?
child. Yes.
You were a what child?
When I was a small child,
Oh.
I was a big stuffed animal person because I had this crazy imagination, and I thought that they were alive and like would talk to me. So
My two daughters were crazy with stuffed animals.
okay, yeah.
And they had little ones and big ones and all different sizes.
Yeah.
And at night, when my wife would put them to bed, this is when they were very young, they had to have these bears all around them on the bed.
Like buried.
Buried in those bears and all different kinds of animals. It was like they couldn't even move because they just had to have all of these stuffed animals around them.
They feel safe, yeah.
Yeah,
I know,
I don't get that at all.
It's really neat to see, like, kids are so great because the littlest thing, can go such a long way to make them, feel safe and loved and happy. And I've seen the pictures of these kids getting the bears, and
Have you really?
just from that one article, and you can just tell that is meaningful, to some of them to have that. And I love what Lorenzo's saying in his letter, just about it's not only meaningful for the kids, but when the men in the prison who made the bears saw the photos of the kids, that was really moving to them in some way. So again, like you were saying before, when you give back, it's not that the person receiving is the only one benefiting, but it's kind of this mutual experience of healing, and it's just beautiful.
A neat psychological dynamic going on there, because
Yeah.
we know that 80% of people in prison don't have a relationship with their fathers and didn't when they were growing up. And then that cycle gets repeated if they have kids. And so there's something that was missing that this is filling. Huh?
Yeah, it's a pretty harsh statistic, that you just mentioned.
It
So,
sure is.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great
Okay.
to see what he's doing.
What's the name of that again? The Teddy Bear
Create a Bear with Care program.
Create a Bear with Care program. Well, Lorenzo, we
wish him the best.
We wish him the best on that.
For sure.
What's next?
Yeah, let's go to Papua New Guinea for this next one.
Ooh.
This is from a student, Susie. She says, "Thank you, CBI, for involving me in the study course. It's really helpful to me. I'd always wanted to do Bible studies, and if I had not come to prison, I would not have seen this dream come true. What I learned from the study course, I will bring back to my family at home. They will also know God's word. It is a great blessing to me and my family, and not them alone, but also to my relatives, clan, tribe, and province as well, and, if it is God's will, my nation. Much love."
So he really sees the
Susie.
extending concentric circles
Yes.
from his family to his community,
Yeah.
to his tribe, he calls it, to
Yeah.
his province, to the whole nation.
Yeah,
That-
Susie is actually a woman,
Oh.
so we'll mention that.
Yeah.
But she clearly wants to take this, to others what she's learning and sees a potential for it, to, like we said before, ripple effect outward.
Yeah, sort of an expanding worldview.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know the last time I heard, we have this program in Papua New Guinea. It's administered by our good friends at CBI Australia.
That's right.
And the lessons come back there. But remember, the last time that we heard a couple of interesting things about Papua New Guinea, to talk about giving back to the community, and that is among CBI students who are released, there is a 0 recidivism rate.
Wow.
None of them are going back into prison. A 0 recidivism rate.
That's
Also,
incredible.
the certificates help them get jobs. When they bring the certificates to their potential employee, the employers are saying, "Oh, you were a CBI student, we'll hire you."
Oh, that's
So
great.
it's just, it's pretty incredible how the government and employers and so forth have this very, very high respect for the program there, and they're seeing how
Yeah.
it's transforming the lives of these men and women so that they actually truly can be productive members of their society.
Sure, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, should we have another one?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. Let's go with Felix from Texas. He says, I have been recently released, and I'm presently attending Calvary Commission. I'm seeking the Lord and training as a missionary, being discipled and prepared for what the Lord has called me to do for the rest of my life, whatever that may be. I want to continue to complete this Bible study and grow in knowledge of the Word. Thank you for your encouragement through my incarceration, and may the peace of our Father rest on you and all the staff at Crossroad. Well, it sounds like he's going through some kind of missionary training program, post-release. So, yeah, I would, love to hear more about his story. But just from what we see here, he's clearly taking what he's learned and trying to translate that into his new life on the outside, which is pretty remarkable when you think about all the challenges that face returning citizens, finding a job, finding housing, and obviously at CBI through our reentry services, we try to ameliorate some of those problems and challenges. So it sounds like he's trying to find some time, even in spite of all those challenges, to, train to become a missionary of some kind. Whether, I don't know if that's here or far away or what, but clearly has a passion for it.
Yeah, you often will see that students who have come to know the Lord in prison and who are taking our Bible studies courses, and they would like to become missionaries or pastors even, and looks like he is doing that. The message that I like to give to them is that they don't have to become a pastor or a missionary to give back to their communities.
Right, yeah.
A lot of times there's a very narrow worldview focus, but the fact is we need Christian plumbers and Christian carpenters and Christian bag boys at Walmart, and who are stocking the shelves. We need Christian street sweepers.
Or teachers, or
And then teachers and all of that. I mean, the point I was trying to make, there's no job too low where you can use that as a way to give back to the community. And the fact is that most people in prison are going to have to start at the bottom of the ladder, right?
Yeah, for many of them, especially if, there's still that box on so many employment forms, to check if you have a felony and all that can make it really difficult. And also even just beyond vocation or career, thinking about being, a father or a mother and a brother and sister, all those things, you can still spread, the gospel through those avenues as well. So.
Well, this is an exciting program, exciting conversation. We're going to stop for a break, and then we'll have a few minutes to look at a couple more letters. We'll be right back after this.
Did you know that 750,000 people are being released from prison every year? They are returning to our communities and neighborhoods, and most will return to a life of crime. However, if they get into God's Word during incarceration, these people are more likely to return home as productive citizens. You can help by correcting their Bible study lessons in CBI's Safe and Secure Distance Learning Program. For more information, go to cbi.fm on the web.
Welcome back to Crossroad Connection. We're talking on the program today about people in prison giving back to their communities and giving back rather than taking. And Alexa Winnick, my co-host, is here with me. She's collected these letters and anecdotes, and we have just a couple of more, but we've seen everything from giving back in Papua New Guinea to making teddy bears
Yeah.
to handing out enrollment
Applications,
forms
yep.
to
Yep.
to other students, and so just a number of concrete ways in which people in prison can learn to give back. Let's find some more ways.
Okay. This is from Shannon in Illinois, and just a word about Shannon before I read the testimony. He's got a really fantastic testimony, and I think we featured him on our website before in our archives if people want to go check that out. But he was recently released and actually contacted us and said, hey, I just got out of prison and here's what I'm doing.
Really?
We helped set him up with some steps for reentry, and he ended up choosing this Mission Gate reentry kind of agency.
One that we found for him.
Yes, and or helped facilitate that, and he's doing really well. So he's been kind of sending us updates on that.
Yeah, just so the viewers realize, when they get out of prison or finish our program, we're not done with them.
Right, we want to see them through to the next.
That's
the
right,
next
because
step,
it's
yeah.
difficult to get a job,
Very
to find
difficult,
housing,
yeah.
even to find a church that will accept you.
Yeah.
And so we have this reentry program that works so beautifully. And last count, I think we're working with over 1,500 reentry ministries all throughout the country. So the people in prison just tell us, when they know where they're going to be released and when, and then we go to work.
Yeah. Send
with
them a list of information and all
2 or
those
3
things.
possibilities, like we did this one, and this one was named what again?
The Mission Gate.
The Mission
Yeah.
Gate, and that connection worked for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he
And,
decided to go that route, and it seems to be working well. He would tell you in his testimony he, was a businessman who got caught up in drugs and cocaine and ended up in this downward spiral and ended up in prison. So he's, kind of gone from the top to, a low point in his life, and now he's working his way back up. So he wrote a very long, beautiful letter about that whole experience, and this part of the letter I chose is he's talking about after, going to Mission Gate and learning like how to get a job again, how am I going to do that, he starts talking about his future plans. He says, as for my future, I have been approached by several friends with great entrepreneurial opportunities, from starting an executive search recruiting firm to working in the construction industry and management and sales. I am humbled that my past is an afterthought with these people. I will take my time and ask God for direction in choosing one or several of these options. I also plan on joining the Mission Gate Prison Ministry, as I am driven to share my story of God's grace and mercy to those behind bars. I also am planning a long-term goal of becoming a Christian counselor. Mission Gate staff are more than willing and capable to assist me in these spiritual endeavors.
So he's starting over again,
Yeah.
using the gifts that he had, learning the lessons that he learned, and going to be giving back maybe as a counselor.
Yeah, and this part of the letter didn't talk about it, but he did say, through the Mission Gate, he got a job that was more of a manual labor kind of job to start off at, which he mentioned, that was a little difficult for me going from this high business position to
I'll
a
bet.
manual labor job,
Yeah.
which, was the only job that, probably was available at that time. But God has been providing these like opportunities kind of dropped in his lap, while he's been doing that. So he's being faithful and doing, the next thing in front of him, and other opportunities are coming up. So that's great to hear.
Very good to hear from Shannon and how he is giving back after a big fall.
This is Jay in California, and he says, Thank you for such a wonderful letter. Please let my CBI instructor know my many thanks. You all must be praying because I received my application for a program to become an alcohol drug addiction Christian counselor. It's a very intense Christ-based program. I can hardly wait to begin, but you've all been very instrumental in my own recovery and walk with Christ. Thank you.
So here's someone who's had to overcome addictions on his own,
Yes, sounds like it.
and now he wants to help
Help others,
others
yeah.
to do it. That's right. Oh, the figures around 75-80% of people in prison, when they committed their crime, it had to do with some kind of addiction,
Yeah.
some kind of drug or alcohol, or other kind of addiction,
Yeah.
what has been related to it. And so he's going to go out there and hope to help others with
Yeah.
with those problems.
Which
So-
is a great way. I mean, we know through Alcoholics Anonymous, people get mentors or sponsors, I think they're called, and they've been through the recovery process as well. And I think that empathy, that mutual understanding between them, is a very powerful thing. When you're also starting out on that difficult road. So.
Now, as we come to the conclusion of our
Yeah.
program, our emphasis today has been how people who have been incarcerated or are incarcerated can give back to their community. Why don't you just share with the folks, because you function as our managing editor, we have just launched 5 new courses, which we call Life Skills Program and also our 5-star reentry program.
That's correct.
And I think it'd be good for folks just to hear about those, just to list those up, because if you think about it, all 5 of those are about giving back.
Yeah, they all relate. We have a course on work ethic, a course on financial stewardship, on family, on overcoming addictions, as we talked about. That's a very key piece for many students. And then ultimately, it comes to community, how to flourish in community. So we think these 5 courses have a lot of practical strategies. They're faith-based and can really, just be a tangible, practical way for our students to just learn some things that perhaps were not learned growing up. Cycles of poverty, family abuse. Not all prisoners, but many of them face those things. So this is one way we think is worth investing, since most of our students will go back to society. They will return, and we want to equip them with the skills to be successful with that.
So they can make a difference in their community as well as for their personal lives if they can get a Christian work ethic, find a job, keep a job, improve at your work. If they can understand what it means to have a Christian family and raise up children in the fear of the Lord so that they can be contributing citizens.
Sure.
Overcoming addictions, which only do harm to themselves and to those around them. To be good stewards of the finances, of the resources that they have, so that they can help others as well as themselves with that, with those things. And then finally, we hit that head on, to give back to community, how to be a good neighbor, the importance of voting, to have a voice.
Yeah, if they can vote,
If they can vote, that's another whole
Yeah,
issue we're working
sure.
on, is to try to pass the Democracy Restoration
Yeah.
Act legislation so that they can give back by giving their voice and caring about the community.
Right. And I will make an important note, I think is important, is, we've tried to write these courses in a way that are applicable to all kinds of life circumstances. All of our students come from a unique situation and a different background, and it doesn't matter whether, your family has experienced incredible brokenness or loss. There's something to be gleaned from each course,
Right.
in a way I think that's very beneficial to people coming back to society.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. They're very holistic and applicable to anyone. Okay, this has been a great program. Thank you for putting together these wonderful letters of
Yeah,
giving back, and
no
we hope
problem.
that Crossroad Bible Institute is giving back to make our community safer, more productive, more God-glorifying. And thank you for being with us. We hope that you'll be with us again right here next week.